So we're going to do a few things lying down to start with. Sarah, are you okay with that light on? Would it be better with it off?
Off might be better, actually.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
if we need it. I don't think on it.
Yeah, well, I think when you're lying down, it's probably better not in your eyes, isn't it? So I might put it on. Let's see if people need to see things a bit later on. So yes, settling down onto your backs and letting yourselves arrive. So whether you're at home or in my home, just those few moments of settling, of feeling the contact of the back of your body on the ground. And taking stock. So yes, that's it. So you can have some big sighing breaths if that's helpful. And it's really, I suppose the main thing is that just stopping, settling, starting to sense how you feel. And so that's on a physical level, just noticing if, you know, usually if we have injuries, they're very, very present in our awareness. It also might be noticing sort of energy levels, any places that might feel a bit stiff or a bit creaky. And then just before we start moving, I'd like you to have maybe just 2 or 3 cycles of breath where you're feeling the movement of the breath in your body. Wherever that is. So it might be that I can see some of you are resting your hands on the front of your body, but you don't have to do that. You can have your arms on the floor. Just seeing if you can feel the breath coming in, the breath leaving you. So perhaps one more cycle of breath, receiving your inhalation, letting the out breath go. And then just wherever you are, starting to slowly let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. So keep this movement really easy and very much within your comfort zone. So you're not trying to go as far as you can. Good. So that feeling of easing side to side across the back of your head, noticing how your neck feels. And do this a couple more times and then find a comfortable place to settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. If you feel that it would be nice for the back of your neck to pick up your head in your hands and gently lengthen out the back of your neck, you can do so. It just really depends how you're feeling today. I've been feeling quite a lot of tightness in this place, the back of the neck, the base of the skull. And then yes, if your legs are long, now bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And just let your arms come to settle on the floor beside you. And you're going to again do that very familiar movement. Start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice. And just see how this feels. And keep it easy. So it might be that you do this movement and it feels completely comfortable in your body, and then you can really go as, you know, do whatever you like with it. Or it might be when I was doing this earlier, I just felt a little bit sort of twingy, a little bit creaky around the back of my pelvis. So I tried going a bit smaller, see if I could ease that out. So just another couple of times to the right and to the left. And then we're going to settle in the center. And if you're comfortable, lengthen your legs out, because we're going to do one of the movements for the upper body. And it's just easier to let your pelvis settle if your legs are longer. But obviously keep your knees bent if that's more comfy. Now, you're going to then take your arms up towards the ceiling and you're going to make a big O shape with your arms. Oh, so you're not a triangle. We'll do that one in a moment, Jan. So a big O shape with your arms. Interlink your fingers, Sarah. That's it. Good. So you've made this big O shape like you're holding a beach ball on your chest. And now you're going to start to rock side to side across your upper back. So let your head move with your arms. Try and keep your circle circular. That's it. Yeah. So if your ball starts to get a bit squashy, that's maybe because you're going a bit too far. So just try and stay really soft. Stay soft in your jaw, soft around the back of your shoulders, and just rocking from side to side. So if, like me, you are feeling a bit tight around the upper back, the back of the neck, then just using this movement to try and ease some of that out. So you can do this once, twice, more to each side. Whenever your arms start to feel a bit tired, your arms come down to rest. Good. So let the arms rest whenever you're ready. At this point, when we've done something with the arms, it's much easier then to let them feel heavy on the ground. So let the arms feel heavy, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Just feel the length of your body in contact with the ground. We're going to do one more of these rocking movements across the upper back. So again, if you feel that you'd be more comfortable with your knees bent, do change your legs. Otherwise, this time you are going to come into the movement. We make a triangle with your arms. So touching your palms together, straight arms, that's it, straight elbows, Sarah, good. So the hands are stuck together, the elbows are comfortably straight. You're now going to rock this triangle to the right and to the left. Don't let your hands slide. That's it, don't let your elbows bend. So again, it's very much this feeling that we're rocking side to side across the upper back. That's it. We let the head go with the arms and try and find a rhythmic rocking movement that's comfortable for you, that feels helpful. Again, what we're thinking about is this, can we rock out some of the tightness between our shoulder blades? That's nice, good. If it's comfortable still, if your arms are not achy, carry on a few more times. But whenever your arms start to get tired and achy, bring them down to rest. I think now the arms can rest. Heavy by your sides. Again, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Give the weight of your body to the ground. And then when you're ready, you're going to bend both knees, stand both feet on the floor. Take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the ground. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And see how it feels to come back to this movement of tilting the knees from side to side. Maybe it feels a little bit easier, maybe it feels a bit more fluid. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to go further with it, but you might do. Good. So again, maybe once, twice more to each side. Feel how the weight rocks to the right side of the pelvis and to the left side of the pelvis as the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then pause in the center. And settle, that's it, settle your feet down, settle the knees down. Feel the back of your pelvis on the floor. And then come to tilting your pelvis on the ground. So tipping your pelvis towards your head and tilting your pelvis away from your head. So your lower back arches off the ground a little. So those of you I can see, I'll just, yes, very nice, Francis. Jan and Rosie, I'm sure it also looks very nice. I can't see your pelvises, but that's fine. Yes, so that movement, which is, I think, very familiar to all of us, tilting our pelvis towards our face and away from our face. In one direction, we flatten out the lower back, we make more contact of the lower back on the ground, and in the other direction, we arch the lower back off the floor. And then what I would like you to do, so when you're flattening out your lower back and the bottom of the pelvis is coming off the ground, you can go a bit further with this and go into bridge pose. So at this point, you might want to have your arms on the floor if your hands are on the front of yourself. You're just going to see how does it feel to come up into quite an easy bridge pose. So Marie, you could have your feet a bit wider apart. And yeah, Sarah, you might want your, I always say this, with your feet closer into you, but see. So in your own time, you're going to roll up and down 3 times in and out of bridge pose, and think about it as a movement rather than sort of somewhere you're trying to get to and stay. So how does it feel to roll up, your spine coming up off the floor, noticing at what point you stop going any further up. Again, it's maybe when we hit that tightness in the upper back. And then there's that, how does it feel to place the vertebrae down one by one? Where is that easy? Where is it a bit harder? Very nice. And when you've done this 3 times, just settle your pelvis back onto the floor. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Let the weight, that's nice, let the weight of your body settle on the ground. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then you're going to bring your hands around the back of your head and interlink your fingers. So we're going to do this sort of little mini, I suppose it's like a little mini sit-up, where as you exhale, you're lifting your head. You're looking between your legs, you're gathering your elbows in, and you're also tipping your pelvis towards your head. So you really want to feel that the middle of your back is pressing down on the floor. And you're going to do this a few times. So as you exhale, lift your head, look between your legs, draw the elbows in a bit, Sarah. So that's it. So you're thinking about rounding up. So, and then you come down again. So just come up as you exhale. Come back down as you breathe in. I'd like you to repeat this maybe sort of 4 or 5 times, but try not to feel that it's too much of a, rather than it feeling like a sit-up. So my 14-year-old came home from school yesterday complaining about being made to do planks and sit-ups in PE. I don't know, very little sympathy. So Sarah, actually, when you come up, look, sort of think about looking a bit more between your legs as you, that's it, and gathering your elbows in more. That's it, good. That's nice, yeah, like that. Okay, maybe do this once more and then let it go. We're going to come back to another variation of this. So if you're enjoying doing a little sit-up, we have one more variation. Let it go. Let the arms come to rest. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you. And then in your own time, revisit bridge pose a couple of times and see how it feels. And so sometimes when we come back to bridge pose after doing these little sit-up movements, perhaps we feel that we're moving a little bit higher into our upper back and bridge. It doesn't matter whether we are or not, but it's interesting to see how these movements pair with each other. Good. And when you've done a couple of bridge poses, you're then going to fold your knees into your chest. Good. You could then maybe take your legs up to the ceiling, just give them a little shake out. Yeah, And when your legs are up there, just sort of, if there's anything, yeah, you feel that you want to do in terms of circling ankles or pointing toes, pointing heels. And whenever you've had enough of that, folding your knees back in towards your chest. So we're just going to try one more little sit-up type movement with keeping the knees into the chest. So keep your knees folded into your chest. And you're going to bring your hands around, again, around the back of your head. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring your elbows towards your knees. And you're going to stretch into your feet. So stretch into the heels and the toes. That's it. So, yeah, so hands around the back of your head, interlinking your fingers around the back of your head. So this time for the little sit-up movement, you're gathering your elbows towards your knees. And you're stretching into your feet. And you're lifting your head up as well, Sarah. That's it, and gather the elbows into the knees.
The knees above your hips.
No, you bring the knees, bring your elbows to your knees as well. That's it. And then come back down. When you come back down out of this one, you can bring the feet all the way to the floor, or you can just, that's it. So I only want you to try this one maybe 3 or 4 times. That's it. So what you're thinking about is when you're gathering in, you're really gathering into a little ball. And if you stretch into your heels and you spread, yeah, that's it. Make sure you can gather a bit more tightly. But I think, you know, three times is maybe enough. As you exhale. In between, relax your feet when you come down. You can bring the feet onto the floor if you like. And then, yes, when you've had enough of that one, just a few quiet breaths on the ground. If you want to lengthen your legs out, you can do. You might want to let your hands come to rest on the front of your body. And just feel the movement of the breath in your body. We've got one more thing we're going to do on our backs in a moment. But before we do that, coming back to this feeling of lying on the ground, supported by the ground, feeling the movement of the breath within us. Good. And then the last thing we're going to do is just a little bit more rocking. You're going to cross your elbows over your chest. So yeah, that's it. So giving yourself a hug with your arms. Good. And then bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then now you're going to start to let the knees and the elbows and the head all rock in the same direction. That's it. So you're rolling side to side across the back of your body. Marie, I hope you're okay. I've got windows open. We're supposed to have air.
No, I like air, yeah, that's okay.
Then it's going to be like. So if you want more air, I can open the back door. But it's, no. Would you like more air?
No, I'm okay.
You're okay. Yeah, so it's quite nice in September. I'm not sure what it would October. I'm not even thinking about October and November. So.
Where are thermals?
Yeah. So from rocking like this, you're eventually going to rock all the way over onto one side and just have a few breaths on your side. And if you want, you don't have to keep your arms crossed when you come onto your side. You could bring one arm to support under the side of your head and have a few breaths there. And start to contemplate the prospect. So I'm going to put this light on now, Sarah. It's just I think it's slightly better in Zoom. So we're going to contemplate the prospect of coming off our backs, and you're going to come onto hands and knees. So we're not coming too far. So when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees and just giving yourself a few moments to arrive and settle on hands and knees. And what we're going to do when you're ready, and there's no rush, is we're just going to do a dog pose and see how that dog pose feels. And then we're going to do dog as part of a sequence. And we're going to work fairly slowly in this sequence. So When you're ready on hands and knees, make sure you settle your hands, nice big handprints. And then tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back and up into dog. And just seeing how dog pose feels, or seeing what meets you in dog pose today. What do you notice? So often the backs of the legs, I think for me, backs of the legs, how do the shoulders feel? So it's really, what do you feel in your dog? Often what we feel is those areas of tightness. So we want to feel ourselves and notice what we feel. And you can have a few more breaths in this dog. Whenever you want to come down, you can do. You can fold into child pose or kneeling for a moment, and then we'll start to move through a little sequence. So sometimes when we move through sequences, it's all about the movement and going quite quickly from one movement to another. I wanted us to just work a bit more slowly today, and yeah, and feel ourselves in each of the movements. So yeah, come down for a moment, Sarah. So give you give your hands a shake out. So our sequence is going to be coming back into dog pose, and then I'll talk you on from that dog. So when you're ready, coming back into another dog pose. And again, in this dog pose, maybe let's start by thinking about the legs a bit. So we can be bending one knee, bending the other knee, coming up onto the balls of the feet. So when I was thinking about this class yesterday, coming into dog, I was thinking, okay, one of the things that really strikes me first of all in dog pose is the tightness in the back of my legs, to a greater or lesser extent every day. So what you're going to do from dog, when you've had another breath or two or three or whatever you want, is you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet and coming into a forward bend. So in a forward bend, we start to perhaps bump up against that tightness in the back of the legs even more. So when you come into your forward bend, you could be bending your knees. If your lower back needs support, you could be resting your elbows on your thighs. And just seeing how it feels to be in the forward bend, letting your head go, feeling the heels sinking down to the ground. Good, and then Marie, you might need to come forwards, but otherwise you're going to sit onto the sofa. So from your forward bend, we're then going to see how does it feel to start to bend the knees more as we come down into a squat. Now, I forgot to say that if you wanted to stay in this squat and you want something under your heels, then grab something. Yes, here you can have yours. I think if you want to use a wedge, then use a wedge. I think a very long time before we use eye pillows. So coming down, it doesn't matter if your heels come up in a squat. But if you want to have something under your heels, do so. Just so again that you can be in the squat and settle there. One thing that I've been liking, because again I've had this sort of tight neck over these last few days, is in the squat to fold down between my knees a little bit and let my head hang, and even bring the hands around the back of the head, like we did for the sit-ups, to help the head feel heavy and lengthen out the back of the neck. So that's something you can do in the squat. And then from our squat, we're going to, at this point you can remove whatever under your heels, we're going to roll forwards onto our knees, come onto our hands, and you're going to lengthen each leg out behind you in turn. Okay. So resting down through your hands and arms, lengthening each leg out behind you in turn. And then once we've done that, we've done sort of half of a plank pose, so we're actually going to come all the way into plank. So make sure your hands are under your shoulders, and then you're going to lengthen one leg back into plank and then the other, and see how you feel in your plank pose. And really try and use your legs in your plank, so really stretching back into your heels. Are you looking down sort of just slightly forwards of your fingertips? So Sarah, your pelvis could come down a little bit. That's it. And look forward slightly more. That's it. Good. Very nice. Whenever you want to from plank. Very nice planks, everyone. Beautiful. You're going to fold down into child pose. That's it. Child pose on kneeling, and just have a couple of quiet breaths. And then we're going to do that whole little sequence a couple more times. So just let yourself settle for a moment. So we'll come back into everything, and again, just with this intention of really trying to feel ourselves in each of the movements and notice where the tightness is, where we can release. So when you're ready, you can come back onto hands and knees. You can tuck your toes under. You can exhale, rock your hips back over your heels, come back into dog pose. And again, it's what presents itself to your awareness in this dog pose. That's nice. If there's somewhere that feels tight, what can you do to release it? How does your breathing feel? Where do you feel your breath in your body? And then it's making the decision for yourself. Whenever you feel that actually you're ready to move on, then you walk your hands into your feet. You come into your forward bend. You settle in your forward bend. So this feeling of settling the weight down into the feet, letting the head hang. Again, remember you can bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs. Just how is it to be in the forward bend? How do the backs of the legs feel? You can always play around with bending the knees, straightening the knees in the forward bend. And then from your forward bend, you can start to bend your knees forwards over your feet, coming down into your squat using a wedge or a cushion or a book or a block or something under your heels if you like. And again, that's sort of what does it feel like to stay in the squat? Can we feel the weight of the pelvis dropping down towards the floor? If you like, once you're in the squat, you can take your knees a bit wider apart and sort of fold down in between your knees. That's nice. Let the head hang, the back of the neck is feeling tight. And then whenever you're ready from squat, bringing your knees back together, you're going to then roll forwards through the balls of your feet onto hands and knees, lengthening each leg out behind you in turn. So tucking your toes under to do that. So we do that sort of half plank pose on each side. Again, that feeling that we really stretch the heel away. We really tuck the toes under. And then coming into plank, making sure your shoulders are over your wrists, lengthening one leg back, lengthening the other leg back, trying to feel yourself in that long straight line of plank. Good, yeah. It's better that time, Sarah. Really stretch the heels away. Good. That's nice. And then again, you can stay in plank as long as you like. You can also fold down into child or back down into kneeling. And just have a couple of quiet breaths before we do the third cycle of this little sequence. So again, whether you're in kneeling, child pose, or like me and Rosie having a drink of water, so just letting yourself settle. Seeing how your body feels in this sort of quieter place. And then, yes, Marie, is absolutely, you can go on into dog. So when you're ready, on into the fourth dog pose, I think. So again, for dog, big handprints on the floor. So again, it's your shoulders are feeling tight. You could try taking your hands as wide apart as your mat. Tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back over your heels, coming up into dog. If in dog pose, once you're up in dog, if you want to try taking your feet very wide as your mat, I'm not saying this is how you always should do dog pose, but as a little experiment, you can take your feet very wide, you can bend your knees a lot, and that's it, really send your hips back when you do that. And sometimes that can be really, really nice for releasing in the upper back. That's it, Francis. Really send your sort of weight back. Yeah, good. Good. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So all of these possibilities we have. Yeah, that looks good, Marie, with your feet a bit wider, I think. Yeah, that's good in the upper back, Sarah. It's getting that moving a bit. So yes, whenever you're ready, from dog, walking your hands into your feet. I'll say one last time, but we probably will do this at another point in this class. So back into your forward bend. Again, you could have your elbows resting on your thighs, trying to really feel your weight in your heels. So looking at the toes, can the toes be long and relaxed and quiet on the floor? Can you let the head go? If you're not resting your elbows on the thighs, can you let your arms go? Good. And again, if the forward bend is feeling a place that you're enjoying, then you can stay there for another breath or two. And actually, if you're not there, Sarah, well, whenever you're ready, you can come into your forward bend. But then equally, if you're ready to go on into your squat, you can start to bend your knees forwards. That's it, over your heels. No, over your feet. That's it. That's it, Francis, getting that actually. And that block looks like possibly more than you need. Do you think? It could be, yeah. Have you got a cushion or roll up the back? I don't know. See, yeah. That might be quite good. It might not even need to be folded over, possibly. Yeah, good. Okay, so again, yes, that's nice, good. A few breaths in squat. And then, again, if you're wanting to stay longer in the squat, if it's good for your lower back, then stay there. Otherwise, when you're ready, rolling through the tops of your feet, onto hands and knees, and then lengthening each leg out behind you in turn. And when you've lengthened each leg out behind you in turn, then it's checking that you've got your shoulders over your wrists, and then you can lengthen both legs out behind you together, so one at a time, into your plank pose. And then really trying to feel yourself in that long straight line of plank from your shoulders to the heels, your gaze down just somewhere beyond your fingertips on the floor. Good. And not the easiest place to breathe in, so when you're ready to breathe a bit more fully, then you can fold down into child pose or kneeling. And again, a couple of quiet breaths. Just letting your body settle. Feel the movement of the breath within you, giving yourself just a little bit of time and space, which is often what we don't give ourselves in daily life. Sort of time and space just to be and to breathe. Maybe just 2 more cycles of breath wherever you are, feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. Okay, if you're in kneeler, if you're in child pose, slide your hands forwards on the floor so your elbows come off the floor, and then come onto hands and knees. And Rosie, just come into a long hands and knees. So what I'd like you to do is just in quite a sort of tentative way, just starting that movement where we're rocking our pelvis forwards, we're rocking our weight more over our hands. So it's sort of the beginning of the movement towards face up dog, but you're not worrying too much necessarily about coming all the way into face up dog just yet. But it's up to you. If it feels like that's exactly where you want to be going, you can go further towards face up dog. We're going to be doing a bit more in a moment. It's just that, yeah, how does it feel to start to bring the pelvis forwards and let the front of the hip joints open as we bring the pelvis forwards. We can rock forwards, we can see how it feels to be there for a breath or two, we can sort of check in, that's nice with our lower back. Good. That's nice. And then from here, just fold all the way back into child pose just for a moment. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then from child pose, I'm going to ask you to slither forwards on the floor so you come onto your belly. Just lie onto your belly. And have your hands one on top of the other. And you could, yeah, that's it, that's it. Well, hands one on top of the other. And I think have your hands slightly above your head and have one side of your head resting on the floor. That's it. So one side of your head resting on the floor. You can give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. That's it, just to help you settle down. And then we're going to do I say it's quite a small movement here. And again, it's what I was playing around with. It's good for necks. What you're going to do is let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're going to lift your head and then turn your head. So you're bringing the other side of your head to rest on the floor and then settle it down and receive an in-breath. So you can help yourself lift your head. So as you exhale, you can sink into your elbows and forearms and it helps you lift your head. So you're lifting your head enough so you can turn your head and bring the other side of your head to rest on the floor. So that's what we're just doing a few times. This is our starting point. So as you exhale, you're lifting your head enough so that you can turn your head and bring the other side of your head. So it's your sort of cheek, isn't it? Maybe your cheekbone, the side of your temple to rest on the floor. And do that with your out breath. You can help yourself by sinking down into your forearms and your elbows. So do this one more time because then we're going to change the breathing slightly. So one more time, exhaling, sinking down into your forearms, turning your head so the other side of your head is resting on the floor. Okay. Then let a breath come in. So now you're going to exhale, you're going to lift your head and turn your head so you're sort of in the center with your head. And then breathe in with your head lifted in the center. Breathe in, and then with your next out breath, turn the head the other way and bring the head to rest on the floor. So basically, we're supporting the head for an inhalation. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, sink down into your forearms, lift and turn your head to the center. Breathe in there, supporting your head. And then as you exhale, turn the head the other way. So I'd like you to do that twice more. So we receive a breath with the head resting on the floor. We exhale, we sink into the forearms. We turn the head to the center. We receive an inhalation supporting the head. And then you exhale to turn your head the other way. And then one last time, receiving an inhalation, resting your head on the floor. And as you exhale, sink into your forearms, lift the head, turn the head to the center, let a breath come in there. And then as you exhale, turning the head the other way. Good. And then let yourself fold back into child pose again. And just stay in child pose long enough to lengthen out your lower back if you need to. If you don't need to, we're going to be coming onto hands and knees. And we're going to be lengthening each leg out behind us. And then coming on into kneeling. So I want us now to do some sort of exploring some of our cat movements in a number of different positions, I suppose. So not just hands and knees. So the first place I'd like you to come to is kneeling. And sorry, I'll go back to you, Sarah. So in kneeling, you're going to do these movements where you let your back round out. And you let your head fall forwards, perhaps a bit more slowly than we do sometimes. And then the other one where we let our back arch forwards and our gaze comes up a little bit. So do these a few times. So when you're rounding your back out, you let your head hang forwards. So your back is making these sort of C-shaped curves. You can imagine sort of side view. So rounding the back outwards, letting the head hang, and then letting the back curve the other way. So the gaze comes upwards, the pelvis tilts forward. So maybe just go once more in each direction, that's it. And try to feel, obviously, that the pelvis is involved in these movements. When your back is rounding out, your pelvis is tilting back. When you're curving your spine forwards, your pelvis is tilting forwards as well as your gaze coming up. And then come onto hands and knees and bring these movements with you onto hands and knees. So you're coming into your cat movements and hands and knees. So perhaps where we traditionally do our cat movements, and see how they feel here. Again, you can do your cat movements on hands and knees at whatever sort of speed and rhythm you like. So when you're on hands and knees, what's quite nice is you can really use gravity when you're rounding your back to the ceiling. You can really use gravity to let your head hang down towards the floor. And when you're dipping your spine down to the floor, you can use gravity to help you there. You let the belly soften towards the floor. That's it. This is where we have to try not to think about it. Just let our belly hang out. Good. A few times. Good. Rounding and dipping. When you round your back to the ceiling, see if you can feel really wide across the upper back. So really wide between the shoulder blades, really let the head hang. When you dip your spine down to the floor, the shoulder blades may move a bit more in towards each other. They probably slide down your back a bit. You don't need to really sort of hunch them up unless that feels helpful. Okay, so from hands and knees and cat, we're going to bring one foot forwards into lunge. And we're going to find some sort of cat-like movements in lunge. So first of all in a small way, and then secondly in a larger way. So just in your lunge, so your back toes can be tucked under or flat. So in your lunge, you can either let your head hang and your upper back be rounded, Or you could see what's it like to come up onto your fingertips a bit more, and can you let your upper back, it's probably going to flatten out now, and so your gaze comes forwards. So again, what's it like to look down or even look back behind you, rest down onto that front leg thigh, and then what's it like to come up onto your fingertips a bit more. So these are staying in lunge. We can sort of change a little bit what we're doing in our upper body. And then we can do more of this. So if we start to add in this sort of rocking forwards and back, so now with the back foot flat, keeping your chest close to your thigh, if you rock and sort of ease back out of lunge, and look back behind you, movements of course lovely. Yes, exactly. So this easing in and out of lunge takes us even more into these cat movements. So rocking back, looking back behind us. When we come back into lunge, again, that feeling of maybe coming up onto the fingertips, can our gaze come forwards, but make sure we're not just doing this movement in the neck. It's very easy at this point to perhaps be overdoing things in the neck. So you don't have to look too far forwards. And we will swap sides of lunge, and if you want to swap sides going through dog pose, you could do. I was just thinking that might be quite nice, or you could swap sides on hands and knees. Is that all right, that plank? Yeah. Give you something more padded. So yes, if you want to swap sides from lunge going through dog pose, and then you can do, might be quite nice. Back into dog. So bringing, whenever you've had a little bit of time in dog and you've brought your side to your second foot forwards into lunge. Again, sort of first of all in lunge, so sort of staying more in lunge, exploring those possibilities with the upper back, with those sort of cat movements. So looking down, letting yourself rest through your front leg thigh, and coming up onto your fingertips and seeing what it's like to bring the gaze forwards a bit more. So you can do those in lunge, and then you can obviously do them, sort of make them bigger movements by untucking your back foot and these rocking to this easing back out of lunge, where we look back behind us, our back is really rounded, and then we shift our weight forwards into lunge, we come up onto our fingertips. We feel the front of the body opening out. So these, yeah. You come onto that front heel if you like. No, you don't have to, just come onto like that. Yeah, I mean, if it feels better, I don't know if it does. Good. And yes, Francis, the same for you. When you rock back, that's it. You can come onto the front heel. That's it. Let the front. That's it. If you like, you don't have to. But I'm just thinking, sometimes that's more comfy. Yeah. So just making sure, I would think, yeah, just making sure that it's not too much going on in the back of the neck. Okay, so again, from this side of lunge, I think it would be quite nice to again come into dog pose, and then we've got one more thing we're doing before we come up into standing. So from this side of lunge, again, maybe step your front foot back, come into dog pose for a few breaths. Just see how it feels to be back in dog. Yeah, if you want to do one leg dog, Sarah, absolutely. Yes, so anyone. Everyone feels, Zoom's just swapped everyone's places to keep me on my toes. So yeah, so if you wanted to do any one-legged dog variations, feel welcome to do that. You also don't have to. So from dog, we're going to, in a moment, come and do some bit more face-up dog, but you might want to just have a little breather in child pose or kneeling and give your hands and wrists a little bit of a rest. That's it, really. Yeah, a little bit of an ease out. So if you feel, you can always bring the backs of your hands together in kneeling, or you can give your hands a bit of a shake out. And so what we're going to do is our last little thing here in on hands and knees is using the cat movements to take us in and out of face-up dog. So you need to be in your long hands and knees position with your toes tucked under. So what we're going to be doing is rounding our back to the ceiling, rocking our hips back over our heels, and then travelling forwards in this rounded way. So the back rounded as we travel forwards into face-up dog, and then we let the pelvis go, we untuck the toes, we open out into face-up dog. And then we can go back out of face-up dog, rounding the back, tucking the toes under. So come back into this. So a long child pose with the toes tucked under. Letting a breath come in, and then travelling forwards, rounding the back to the ceiling, looking back towards your pelvis, towards your feet, travelling forwards into face-up dog, letting the pelvis go at the end, untucking the toes. Good. So using, yeah, Sarah, I think you needed your hands slightly further forwards, didn't you? Just a little bit. So when you're in that rocked back position, you sort of, that's it. That's when to make sure your elbows are off the ground usually gives you the right length. Face-up dog. So perhaps do that little movement 3 times, coming into face-up dog by rounding your back. That looks good. Rounding your back to the ceiling. Very nice, Jan. That's it. Giving the pelvis to the floor, untucking the toes. Very nice. Good. Beautiful. That's it. Lovely. And from the third face-up dog, if it's comfortable for you, you can then tuck your toes under and go all the way into dog pose from that third face-up dog. And then we're going to come up into standing. Very nice. That's it. Really let the shoulders slide down away from the ears. This is in face-up dog. Lovely dog poses, everyone. So yeah, have a few breaths in dog pose, and then you can walk your hands in towards your feet. Have a few breaths in a forward bend, and then come up, roll up into standing. So it's taken us a little while to get to standing today, and it's good. It's what I wanted us to work a little bit more slowly today and just take time. Yeah, so Sarah, that might be nice actually. So why don't we do this one in standing, swinging our arms. And then actually what I want us to do in standing mainly is some sort of side lengthening, side bending movements. We'll see how we get on. Good. Okay, a couple more times, swinging the arms, slapping the arms on your body if you like. And then settling down, letting that go, settling down in standing. So I was listening to a very interesting podcast last week that Cab was playing about. It was all these women complaining about, we'll have to talk about this, Rosie, sometime, about saying feet hip width apart. So
what's wrong with that then?
Well, I think people's things about hips and how it makes them feel about their body. So, I suppose, well, usually if I'm talking about this and not with people I'm really familiar with, I'd explain about, we're trying to find out, where our hip joints are. But
it's like that you said as well.
Is that the
two?
Oh, I didn't say that, but that's quite interesting. But I think maybe just stand with your feet a little distance apart. So it was an interesting podcast. It's lots of things to debate about. So a little distance between your feet. Closing your eyes then if that's comfortable and just letting your weight sway over one leg and foot and over the other. That's it. And just see how that feels. So at the moment, we're just letting our weight rock over one leg, rock over the other. And then what I'd like you to do is open your eyes, because we're going to then add a bit more of a sort of side bending movement to this. So if you let your weight rock into your left leg, let your right hand slide down your right leg. Okay. So opposite hand. So now my weight's going to rock into my right leg and my left hand's going to slide down my left thigh. That's it. So your weight rocks into one leg and the opposite hand. Oh, so try the other way, Marie. So let your weight rock into your left leg.
Yeah.
And let your right hand slide down your right thigh.
I can slide down if I'm doing that.
So go the other way.
Then
That's it. So if your weight rocks into your left leg, you then let your right shoulder drop and your right arm slide down your thigh. It's quite interesting, isn't it? So let your weight rock. Let's see. Let your weight rock into your right leg.
that's my right leg.
Let the left shoulder drop. Let the left arm slide down.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just being
Okay. No, it's fine. Sometimes we can get really confused with these. Okay, that's it. So that's it. Basically, we just feel one side of the body is lengthening. Okay. Let's come to this one where we're then reaching up through one arm and then the other. And as you reach, so this might make more sense, Marie, as you reach into that one arm, you shift your weight into the reaching arm leg. Yeah, that's it. So as you reach into one arm, you shift your weight into the reaching arm leg. Interesting, yes. So think about reaching up, if you can, so up more. So actually, what's it like? If you could bend your knees, that's it. Good. Let's, from there, just go down into a forward bend for a moment. And so all of these are explorations. There isn't really a right or a wrong, but that, you know, if we were spending more time with it, we would play around with all the different possibilities that our brain offers us. So just, yeah, let your arms hang. Just be floppy in your forward bend. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. And what I'd like you to try a few times is reaching up. Well, we're going to do it 3 times on each side. Reach up just into your right arm and start to shift your weight onto your right leg. So your right heel might come up. Just go as far as that. And then let that come down. That's it. Oh, so the other heel would come up. So if you reach up into your right arm, you let your left heel come up. That's it. Yeah. So it's that feeling that as we start to, I suppose what I'm trying to make is that connection between. So keep working with the right arm. So we're going to do it 3 times, just taking the right arm up. So 3 times reaching into the right arm, shifting the weight onto the right leg, let the left heel come up. And then try the same thing on the left side 3 times. So reach the left arm up, let the weight shift onto the left leg, the right heel can come up. So it's this connection between side lengthening movements and balancing. So reach up through the left arm, let the weight shift onto the left leg. Again. Good, that's nice. So we're going to now take this into a couple of balances. I might just show you because the first one has got a little bit of a mini sequence. So we're going to reach up into the right arm. We're going to come to here, so we're catching our foot. And then if it's comfortable, you're going to reach both hands back and pull the foot away from your bottom, if you want to, okay? So let's start by reaching up through the right arm. shifting the weight onto the right foot, good. And then the left heel comes off the floor and we can catch the right foot. We can have a couple of breaths here. You're right there, Jen. So you've caught the left foot, sorry. Ignore my left and right. So you're reaching up with your right arm, you're shifting your weight into your right foot, you've caught your left foot with your left hand. Far too many lefts and rights. And now, if you want to try that one, you can then reach your top arm, your right arm back, and also try and catch onto your foot with it. And then you're trying to draw your foot back away from your bottom, which gives you could give you quite a stretch in your upper back, depending. That's it. Exactly. Good. Okay, let's try the same on the other side. So come down, have a little shake out. And then try reaching. So this time you're reaching up through the left arm. I don't like all these lefts and rights. Shifting your weight onto your left foot. And then you're going to, your right foot's going to come off the floor. You're going to catch the top of your right foot with your right hand. And you can have a few breaths in this balance. And then when you're ready, you're going to take that top arm, the left arm, back to catch your foot. So both hands are on your foot. I quite like to press my thumbs onto the sort of just below the ball of my foot. And then you're reaching your foot back away from your bottom. And it's quite a strong stretch through the front of the quad. See if you can move the foot back away from the bottom at all. That pulls the shoulder blades in towards each other in your upper back. And then yes, and probably makes you fall over in the process.
Yeah.
So, just after that, come forward into a forward bend again for a couple of breaths. Let your head go, let your arms go. Oh, embraced by the presence of Casper. Ooh, hello, Casper. He's coming to see you, Rosie, I think. So, really, what he's doing. Okay, so actually before we do, let's just come and do something for sort of arms and shoulders before we come into another balance. So come back up into standing. Feet a little distance apart. Let a breath come in. I still need to think about this one more. Let a breath come in, take your arms wide, and then exhale, give yourself a hug. And drop your shoulders down away from your ears. And just have a couple of breaths here, maybe closing your eyes and feeling how you widen and expand as your breath comes in. You let your shoulders drop down, you feel that widening of the inhalation in your body. And then the shoulders drop as you exhale. Whenever you like, you can open your eyes, bring your arms into eagle arms, this old favourite, and then step your feet even wider. You can safely stay to the width of the narrow edge of your mat, and then go down into a forward bend, bending your knees as much as you like, sinking into your heels. Letting, whenever you want to, just, have a look at your arms, make a little mental note of which arm's on top, and then you can release your arms to the floor. Good. So if you haven't let your arms go, do so. Let a breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. Bring your feet a little bit closer back together again. Yes, I haven't really had time to think about this whole hip width apart thing since I listened to a podcast, because then I got ill.
So explain it. It's breathe sense.
Breathe your arms in. Yeah, I think it needs that explanation, and I think if you're saying it without the explanation, that's when it could be problematic. And I think, so have a couple of breaths here where you're just giving yourself a hug and dropping your shoulders. And I think it's that thing, isn't it? If you're always teaching different people, you need to give that explanation every time. So, because I think we can a couple of breaths here. So When you're ready, you can open your eyes, you can move on into eagle arms. So there is something, I think, very, we learn, through doing yoga, we learn about the anatomy of our bodies, and that helps us understand ourselves better. And perhaps, make good choices with how we move when we're not doing yoga. So I know for me, those things help a lot in running and swimming and other things. So that's it. Whenever you want to uncross your arms, you can do. You can give the arms down to the floor. Sarah, maybe walk your feet. Yes, if your feet are not, if your feet are not as wide as the narrow edge of your mat, walk them apart a little bit more. And then we'll sink into our heels. We'll roll up into standing. We'll keep our feet this width apart, just so we can revisit. We can do a couple more of these side lengthening movements as we come up. So again, in this one, that's at Marie. The pelvis, if you like, shifts towards the top arm. So we've got the one arm is heavy and floppy, and the pelvis, it doesn't have to. It really depends, what feels helpful. That's it. So do you think a bit more about up, Sarah, as well as over? That's nice. Yeah, lovely. Good. Okay. All day. I hope people on Zoom are not blending into the bookshelves too much, because I probably should have worn a brighter colour. Have a high-vis jacket. What's that? A high-vis jacket, yes. So we're going to do one more balance. We're going to, bringing your feet back so they're a smaller distance apart. Hip width even, I say it. We're going to come into tree pose, but I want us to come into it in the same way. So we're taking our right arm up. We're shifting our weight into our right leg. And then if you're going to, depending where you're going to put your foot on your thigh, your inner leg for tree pose, using your left hand if you want to. And then from here, gather the hands into prayer pose at your heart. Just, we have this intention to settle all the time. Breathing. Sometimes we wobble and we can sort of ride these wobbles out. Sometimes we fall over. If you feel steady and you want to take your arms up and wide, you can do so. Letting the shoulders drop. Feeling yourself in tree. Soften the hands, soften, relax the jaw. Bring the hands back into prayer pose if you like. Over them. Come down. Oh, and have a little shake out. Very nice. Just take a moment in standing before we do the other side. So take a moment in standing and just feel the weight of your body resting down through both legs and both feet. So when we come to stand on the other side, it's this process of shifting our weight onto the left leg, of stabilizing our body above that one leg and foot. That's what all the little wobbles are, this sort of minute by second adaptation. So the left arm can come up. You can come up onto the ball of the right foot. We can decide where we're going to bring the right foot inside of the standing leg, and then gather the hands into prayer pose. Good. And just settling. Can we settle? Moment by moment, our body is responding, adjusting, muscles softening and contracting. Good, just take the arms up and wide if you like. The hands can come back to prayer pose at the breastbone. So a little bit of a shake out. We're going to come into a wide forward bend, so wider. And from that, we'll walk our feet in from the wide forward bend and then come down to a squat, just so you sort of know what we're doing. So yeah, take your feet sort of comfortably wide on your mat. So definitely much wider than hip width apart. And feet parallel, sinking into the heels, folding forwards, letting the head go, letting the arms go. Just seeing how it feels to be in a wide forward bend, comfortably wide. And once you're in that forward bend, it's really up to you. If you like to move a little bit, if you like to bend one knee, bend the other, shift your weight from side to side, that's an option. If you just like to be in the forward bend and breathe and fold, that's also an option. If you're staying in the forward bend, there's these different sort of arm positions. You could hold your elbows. You could rest your hands on your ankles. You could rest the backs of your hands on the floor with the fingers pointing behind you. And if you're happy in your wide forward bend, have another few breaths there. Whenever you're ready to move on from here, stay bending forwards, but walk your feet in towards each other so they come to more of a hip width apart position. A little bit of space between them. And then you're going to, from there, fold down through a squat. So if you're using a block or something, you can do that. But we're actually going to then be sitting down into Cobbler Pose. And I'm just thinking at this point, I'm going to slightly adjust the screen. So yes, from your squat, you can come to sit into Cobbler Pose. And you can lean back onto your hands. So we're going to do a bit of Cobbler Pose. We're going to do right there, Marie.
Yeah, let me just press this.
So Marie, you might want to face the long edge of your mat. Yes, so I think maybe face the long edge of your mat if you're on a wooden floor, because we're going to move from here into pinwheel and then into a bit of pigeon throat. Yeah. So it's Siobhan.
Siobhan is
Do you like it as little as Siobhan?
Well, I don't know. Not keen. Not my favourite.
So from Cobbler Pose, let's let one knee come on top of the other knee and the top leg slide back. And we can do a little bit of our pinwheel circling. That's it. Good. Yeah, so just this sort of circling and settling. And again, remember this one, which I've been doing a bit this week because of my neck and shoulders, where you give yourself a hug. And let your head hang, can be quite nice for the upper back. And again, from here, whenever you're ready, you can move on into your pinwheel forward bend. So turning towards this knee, so Sarah be the knee by the radiator, and then folding the weight. Is it the weight? Yes, folding the weight and length of your body over that knee. So we're trying to settle. That's it, settle down to the floor, giving the weight of our body down through that leg that's going out to the side. I think a lot of pinwheel Sarah on Zoom, so.
Okay. The pigeon, I guess, it feels, you don't like it as much, probably because you're less naturally good at it. It's probably a useful thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yes, and I think that's why I've been doing a lot of the sort of pinwheel into pigeon, because I think it does prepare you quite well, and it feels less of a shock maybe. So let's have another breath or two in pinwheel. And we think about these movements as we maybe say they're hip openers, but actually when we can release stuff around the pelvis and balance stuff around the pelvis, it affects the rest of our body. I really noticed that myself. So coming back up out of pinwheel, but staying, yeah, coming up, but staying here. And then what you're going to do, Sarah, is that this knee slides back a bit. So perhaps it's more level with the long edge of your mat. And then you can lean your weight over that leg a bit and lengthen out the back leg. And tuck your back, that's it. And then roll your pelvis over into pigeon. I think it's the other knee, isn't it, Marie? You'll have to be more careful of. Good. So some people obviously need to stay a bit more sort of lopsided in this if the front knee doesn't like pressure. And then when you're in pigeon, you just, you've got these options of where you can be. You can be on your forearms. You can fold all the way down so your forehead comes to the floor or the back of your hands. Or you can come up onto your hands. Very nice. And then it really is, for pigeon, I know it's not always, as Sarah was saying, not everyone's favourite. It looks very nice there, Sarah. It's probably finding a place you can be in pigeon and stay and breathe. And that doesn't mean you can't move. So you could be rocking a little bit. You could be sort of changing position until you find somewhere where you can settle. Very nice, Jan. Yeah, so sometimes it is that being up on your hands. And I know for me, particularly on one side of pigeon, being up on my hands is the best place to be. We'll have another, if we can bear it, another few breaths in pigeon. It's that feeling of giving the weight to the floor as the breath leaves us, receiving the inhalation, softening, settling, feeling ourselves in pigeon. And so when you're ready to come out of this side of pigeon, you could roll out onto that bent front leg. And just maybe lengthen both legs out. So you just let both legs come long and wide for a moment before we do the other side. How was that? Was that okay?
Yeah, but it's a better way of getting into it, I think. Or maybe we usually do that.
Well, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of that more recently on Zoom. So it might be, it might slightly be, might not have done so much of that in class. Okay. So when you've given your legs a lengthen out, come back into Cobbler Pose. You could just sort of see how Cobbler Pose feels. We won't stay here too long this time. Everyone's having had a week off, even though I had a week off of not being very well, but my timings are completely out today. We had loads more than I was thinking we would do. So I don't know. Things like that, I think, after a holiday. And so then move on to side 2 of Pinwheel.
Maybe that's just reflecting the pandemic. It's just ready to take longer.
Slowed down, yes. Well, it's interesting, isn't it?
It was at full capacity.
No. So a little bit of circling, turning towards your other knee, so the knee that's going out to the side, which hopefully should be going the other way, folding down over that one. And just, yeah, that's again in Pinwheel, this is a place where, Marie, you were saying, weren't you, about the struggling
I find it slightly difficult to position myself, but I'm practicing this.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I don't want to, what's this hanging a bit? Might one of my shoulders.
But it might be, I don't know whether it's worth having a cushion or something to help with this. Try that. Let's see. So yes, I think Marie's saying if you feel that in Pinwheel, I don't know, does that make it better if you've got a cushion or something?
No, I don't need a fluff actually.
Yeah, it's all right. Put it out of the way. You do, I mean, try to feel that that's it. Your body is sort of, you want to feel that your body is resting down through the bent leg. Yeah. You could come a bit more over towards the fireplace way.
Yeah, I tried to.
Possibility. You can't, okay.
It's better the other way.
Yeah, okay, so this is the harder side. Let's, for Marie's sake, well, say we'll move on to pigeon. I'm sure that's going to be the easier. So walking your hands in, coming up into Pinwheel, and then sliding this leg back a little bit, yeah? So again, maybe this leg lines up with the long edge of the mat. And then if we lean our weight forwards over that bent front leg, we can lengthen the back leg out. Marie, do come offside in this.
Yeah,
if your knee's better. It's better for your knee, because your foot's in a slightly straight. I would bring the weight, and the other foot actually, because the other foot's sort of behind your bottom. No. Something's gone slightly awry here. Just rock your bottom all the way onto the floor. Up the other way. Yeah. But that's, yeah, you want to be more there, don't you? Something had happened on that side. Yes, so again, how are we? How are you, Jan? You happy there? Yes, good. Good, happy in pigeon, that looks very nice, Francis, lovely. So remember, in pigeon you can be down. Good, you can be down, right down, forehead on the back of your hands. Yeah, and Marie, in that one, you've just got to find a place where it is, you know, where it can be comfortable. Is it better to be sort of up like that?
Yeah, I know, this leg isn't straight, it should be, isn't it?
Well, it's not going to be if you're a bit offside, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, you could think about, you know, tucking those toes under and reaching that leg back. Yeah, I mean, every so often, perhaps. Okay, that's it. Good. So wherever we are, whatever arrangement we're in for our pigeon on this side, it's again those same principles of feeling the ground beneath us so that we can settle onto the ground. As we settle on the ground, that means we can let some of our muscles soften and release, and we can breathe. We can allow ourselves to breathe more fully. So feeling the movement of the breath through us. And all these things are interconnected. The out breath helps us to settle onto the ground, helps us to release tension. Another breath or two, and then whenever you're ready, if you need a bit longer on this side, less time. And then rolling out onto the front leg hip, letting the legs have a little bit of a lengthen out. While you're doing that, yes, let your legs be long and wide. I'm just going to time this. So I think we will lie down now and just revisit a couple of simple twisty things on our back, and then do a little bit of quiet lying down. And, we'll save all the other things I have planned for next Wednesday. So make sure you're going to be warm enough. It's nice.
It's a beautiful day.
It's really, isn't it? I don't know if people on Zoom can hear, but the children are back out at playtime, which.
Yeah, I think with staggered playtimes, they're out pretty much all the time. Yeah, there's 1 year out pretty much all the time.
It's true, the volume's not quite the screaming intensity.
Almost always there.
So settling down onto your backs, and again just letting yourself arrive and enjoy that feeling of arriving on your back. And maybe just a couple of 2 or 3 cycles of breath before we do anything. So letting your body settle, feeling the movement of the breath through your body. And you could then let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left, easing from side to side. And from letting your head roll to the right and to the left, find a comfortable place where you can settle the centre of the back of your head on the floor. Again, if it's helpful for you to pick up your head in your hands and lengthen out the back of your neck, you can do. Good, and then settling the head onto the floor. And we're just going to do a little bit of tilting the knees. So if your legs are long, bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. Take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, the back of your pelvis on the floor. Then start letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Just keep it really easy, keep it comfortable. And then you could take your feet a little bit wider apart on the mat, so as wide as the narrow edge of the mat. And then carry on tilting your knees with your feet wider. And this means that if you tilt your knees with your feet wider, you can let the knees come all the way down towards the ground on one side and stay there for a breath or 2 or 3, and let your head roll in the opposite direction. So if you like, let the knees come down, the head roll in the opposite direction. Otto always takes advantage of when I'm teaching to go on the sofa, he's not allowed. So you move quite. Good. So if you are taking your knees to the side, go to the other side now and have a couple of breaths there. And again, let your head roll in the opposite direction to your knees. And then finally, we will settle in the centre. So just making yourselves comfortable, legs long or knees bent. If you need any big sighing breaths to help you settle, sometimes when the body has really released, we sort of do these big breaths happen all by themselves. Just lie quietly for a minute or 2, feeling or giving the weight of the body to the ground. So really now allowing the ground to support your weight. You could, for a few cycles of breath, gather your attention into your breathing. Notice where you feel your breath most clearly in your body. There's no right or wrong here. Just feeling the filling of the inhalation, the emptying of the out-breath. And then just for the last few moments before I ring the bowl, see if you can have a very expansive sense, a very expansive awareness. So sensing your body, the ground, the air, sounds, the presence of others and animals. And also being aware of any thoughts or feelings or images that move through you. Thank you. There's no rush. Take your time. I'm just going to stop the recording.